Sea otters dive to find food. They have long whiskers that help them to find their prey in dark water. They can lift boulders on the sea floor and search for sea creatures underneath them. They eat snails, crabs, and shellfish. They use stones as small tools. They hit the shellfish with a stone to get them off the rocks.
Sea otters dive to find food. So you remember, for the polar bears, they wait for the seals to come up and they seize them. But for the sea otter, they have to dive, to swim deep in order to get their food. They have long whiskers. What helps them in order to find their food when they dive? We all know that deep in the sea or deep inside the ocean, there's no light. It is dull or dark. So what helps them? Their whiskers. Whiskers means mustache. Their whiskers help them to find their prey in dark water. They can lift boulders. They can move the boulders. Boulders are the rocks on the sea floor and search for sea creatures underneath them. So they lift boulders, they move them and search for some creatures to eat under them. Under whom? Under the boulders. They feed on what? Snails, crabs, and shellfish. They also use stones as small tools. For example, they found a shellfish on a stone or on a rock. They hit it by a stone, this small stone, and it falls down the rock or the stone, and they can eat it. Code the sentence. Find out the sentence that indicates the sea otters can hunt their food in dark waters. They have long whiskers that help them to find their prey in dark water. What do sea otters eat? They feed on what? Snails, crabs, and shellfish. Repeat with me, shellfish.
Sea otters often sleep at sea in large groups of 10 to 100. They float on their backs and hold each other's paws to make a raft and keep the group together.
Okay, so here you can see in this picture some otters who are sleeping. They are sleeping. They sleep in groups from 10 to 100 otters. While they are sleeping, they are also grabbing each other's paws in order to stay in a group and not leaving any one of them. So how many sea otters sleep together or in a group? From 10 to 100. The next.
Otter pups are born at sea. The mother floats on her back with her newborn pup on her chest. A young pup's fur has so much air in it that it bobs safely on the surface like a plastic ball and is safe from drowning.
Okay, so otter pups are born at sea. So you remember that we said that they do not put their dens on the land. Of course, they're putting them where? On the sea or at sea. So otter pups, the pups, they are the small otters. They are born at sea, inside water. The mother floats on her back. The mother otter floats on her back. She swims on her back while she's putting her newborn pup on her chest in order not to drown. A young pup's fur has so much air in it. So, what helps or what keeps the otter pups away from drowning? What keeps them safe from drowning? It is that God creates them with so much air in their fur. So, like a plastic ball, They pop safely on the surface of the water. The young sea otter is called a pup. What helps the otter pups to be safe from drowning? What helps them to be safe from drowning? We said now. Their fur has so much air, so they pop safely on the surface. The last paragraph.
The biggest threat to sea otters is oil spills. If a sea otter is covered in oil, its fur cannot keep it warm and it dies of cold. Thousands died in 1989 when an oil tanker spilled 40 million litres of oil into the sea.
Look at nature. News just received.
Next year, more oil fields are opening in the North Pacific region. More ships will carry oil across the sea, so there is a greater chance that another accident will happen. The future of the sea otter is not guaranteed.
Okay, so let's talk about the threat that is facing or the danger that they are suffering from. The biggest threat to sea otters is oil spills, and it's a very, very big problem. If a sea otter is covered in oil, so what happens when there is an oil spill in the ocean and there are sea otters? First of all, the oil covers the sea otter, so their fur becomes unable to keep them warm. So they are no more warm. And what will happen to them in this very cold waters? They will absolutely die of cold. So they die because of cold. Thousands of otters died in the year 1989 when an oil tanker spilled, see the huge number, 40 million liters of oil into the sea. So because of that, thousands of sea otters died. Look at nature news just received. So let's see now, are people working in order to save the lives of sea otters? More oil fields are opening in the North Pacific region. More ships will carry oil across the sea. So when there are more oil fields are opening in this region, of course more ships will come in order to move or to send the oils in tankers. It means that there's a greater chance to have more accidents, and there is a greater chance for more sea otters to die. So the future of the sea otters is not guaranteed. It is not certain. To promise that something is certain. What happens to sea otters when oil spills into the sea? What happens to them? Oil covers their fur, so it cannot keep them warm, so they die of cold. So they do not die from pollution. They die of what? Because of cold. Do people stop their harmful activities? And how? Do they stop it? According to what we read here? No, they opened more oil fields in the North Pacific region.